Live again, and I'm trying the wide angle. So we will see how this turns out. I'm kind of debating between, like the long angle and then the wide angle. But anyway, for those of you guys that are new and are just now joining me, welcome, welcome. You get the welcome hands. And for those of you guys that are not new to this, but you're true to this, you guys already know my little sing song. And are joining me again. Welcome, welcome. Much love to all of my subscribers. Please do like the video, subscribe if you are new to the channel. Please take a moment to subscribe. Should I move this back, you guys? I don't know. I'm like, should I move that back? I don't know. But yeah, so for those of you guys that are new, like I say, hit the subscribe button as well as the bell, so that anytime I go live, like I'm going live now, or I upload any new content, you will be the first to know, as well as hopefully join me on a future live, right? So as you guys can see, my background there, I got MJ and I have Freddie Mercury. And for those of you guys that are big MJ fans and don't know a whole lot about rock music, I'm going to break it down. For those of you guys who already know, and it needs no introduction, forgive me. So, stick a pin in it, come on back. But I'm going to explain who Freddie Mercury is. But even for those of you guys who think that you don't know who this guy is, or you're not a fan of the rock group Queen, you probably actually are. Yep. All right. Hey, hi, how's it going? Much love. Hey there, Tara. Shouts out, Tara. Thanks for joining me in the live. But yeah, so I'm just gonna take a moment to explain, for those of you all who are not so, every MJ song, album, performance, date, everything, but you're not real familiar with Freddie Mercury. Let me break it down. So Freddie Mercury, and like I say, for those of you all who think that you don't know who he is, I would be willing to bet that you probably do, and you probably even know the lyrics to a lot of the songs that he has written, that he's performed with the group. But yeah, so he is the lead. He's a British singer, lead vocalist for the iconic rock group Queen. A lot of, and if you guys are thinking like, okay, rock group, and you're maybe thinking like screaming over, instruments, like, no, like hugely talented, the group extremely talented, like they were harmonizing, y'all, like they were harmonizing, like for real. But a lot of their songs have been used as anthems to championship games. You probably have heard it on ESPN, excuse me, during maybe, whatever playoffs or championship or whatever. But we are the champions. We are the champions. The champions. You're singing it on the other side of the screen, you guys. Booze are for losers, because we are the champions of the world. Okay, yes, so that's Freddie Mercury singing that. What else? Another one bites the dust, and another one's down, and another one bites the dust. Freddie Mercury, Queen, okay. And the legendary, we will rock you. Bump. Okay, but anyway, I won't make your ears bleed, you guys. So, forgive me. I'm not going to go off into it, but you do see that a lot of the songs are familiar. You probably liked those songs and probably was singing along, or at least you knew the lyrics, even if you weren't singing along, okay? So, Freddie Mercury, huge. Oh, and then also, how can I forget Bohemian Rhapsody? A lot of I've heard that played plenty of times in commercials. And he really kind of like just killed it and just showing so many versatile styles of music. Like it went into like operatic whatever verses and stuff, but like you've heard it before. It's like dun 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 dun. Okay, well, okay. Anyway, as you see, I don't know the lyrics to it, but that beat should sound a little bit familiar for you guys. But yes, it's been played commercials, probably in movies, TV shows, whatever. If even if you didn't actually go out and buy, a Queen album or stream the music or whatever, like very commercial. And I say that with the highest regard, meaning that the rock music, the music was so good that it broke boundaries. You know what I mean? A lot like MJ's music, even for people that wouldn't be conventionally rock fans, still loved a lot of Queen's music as well as the vocals from Freddie Mercury. Okay, so gave a little background on who he was, I should say, because he died early on. He was just 45 years old when he passed. Did not live very long. He actually died of complications from AIDS. I think it was like pneumonia, something like that. But they said it was complications due to, him actually having, AIDS. But anywho, at the time that he died, too, still majorly successful. He died in 1991, 45 years old, like I mentioned before. And I think, which I was shocked that he didn't actually have more than that, because again, songwriter, hugely talented, but they claim that at the time that he passed, he still had like a net worth of like $50 million or something like that. But just hugely talented. But just, okay, so I was covering this because I noticed that there was a lot of videos that had MJ, Freddie Mercury, like break up. Not in a romantic sense, but just more like even like a friendly sense, like break up, bumping heads, rivals and whatnot. And like my understanding of it, you guys, please do feel free to leave comments down below. But my understanding of it is that they both admired each other, recognized each other's talents, and very good friends. In an interview, now I never actually came across any footage, which I'm sure there is footage out there. Maybe you guys have seen some of the interviews or something like that, but I've never actually seen any footage of MJ, actually talking about Queen. Now, maybe it's a lot of it out there. I don't know. But I did see a 1983 interview that Freddie Mercury did, where he was speaking about MJ and said that they were, very good friends, that MJ had been like a fan of the group and a good, friend of his since like the early days. Now, Queen came out in 1973, so it could have been any time in the 70s, I suppose. Could have been early 80s. Well, that was still early 80s because we're talking about Thriller, 82. So probably more like the 70s, I'm just guessing. Maybe the late 70s. Could have been early, I don't know. But the group, Queen, came out, huge hit, that 1973. And Freddie Mercury did say that in the earlier days, MJ would come and hang out, like he would attend the shows at the Forum in LA, and would hang out with the band. He would, go out to dinner afterwards and things like that. So huge fan of Freddie Mercury's vocals, and we see why, right? Much like MJ's style of music. And I think that once someone becomes like, well, I shouldn't say become, but when someone is hugely talented, a lot of times their talent will break a lot of boundaries, So like when I was singing the Freddie Mercury songs, a lot of you guys, I'm sure, like I say, even if you say like, oh, I'm not into rock music, you probably knew the songs, you probably, was like, hey, like you liked it. So his music broke a lot of boundaries, just like MJ's did. But anyway, yeah, so in the earlier days, according to Freddie Mercury, MJ would come out, he would attend shows, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they said that Freddie Mercury wanted, had asked MJ or something like that, or someone had asked MJ like, so does this mean you're a Queen fan? And he's like, it means I'm a Freddie Mercury fan. So, clearly, the songs came from the group Queen, but the lead vocals did come from Freddie Mercury, and he was a very talented songwriter as well. So the two were supposed to have collaborated. Right, the reason why I'm covering this is because to my knowledge, you guys, there was no huge like rift or anything like that actually happened between them, other than just being very busy, very successful, very busy, and some alleged, which we'll get into. We will get into that. But anyway, kind of back it up a little bit. So the two were supposed to have collaborated on a few songs. They started up a few demos that I think only one of them was actually completed, was finished. But the recording of those demos was done at MJ's home in Encino at the time when he had his llama. But, MJ had animals and whatnot throughout, and then especially, once he purchased the Neverland Ranch, then, a lot more than, his llama. But Freddie Mercury would come over, allegedly came over, and the recording was done at the studio that MJ had in his home. And now, allegedly, Freddie Mercury felt that, it was just too much that MJ was bringing a llama into the studio every day. I never actually heard that come out of Freddie Mercury's mouth. I didn't see any interviews where that was said, but it was alleged that he told his manager, like, get me out of here. He's bringing a freaking llama into the studio every day. I can't take it. Supposedly, I don't know. And then vice versa. Supposedly, MJ caught Freddie Mercury doing drugs in his home, in his lobby, or not lobby, I'm sorry, in his lounge area or something like that. So they to say the least, if I don't know if that was true or not, all of that, I don't doubt it. There were other sources that said that Freddie Mercury did have a problem with drugs, at that time, maybe that is, they bumped heads on work ethic, how they, through the creation of their music. Maybe MJ's flow was to bring an animal into the studio. I don't know. And Freddie Mercury, maybe he did certain things to I don't know, to make it through the night. I have no idea. But that was really the only thing that I heard in terms of, possibly why those songs were not completed, that they bumped heads in terms of, how they worked. Like I say, I find it hard to believe. Now, maybe the llama was around the area, but I find it very hard to believe that MJ was actually bringing a llama into the studio. I don't know. Freddie, and it could have been that MJ was like, oh my God. But if it is the case, and if it is the case that Freddie Mercury did have a problem with drugs. Hey there. Hi, Cedric. Shots out. But if it is a issue, if it was, true that Freddie Mercury had an issue with drugs, I think that, and I think a lot of rock, and not to be so stereotypical, but I think a lot of rock groups, rock bands, hip hop, not just rock, hip hop, whatever, or just entertainment, period, a lot of times can be really saturated with drug use. So it's possible, but if so, and if they were as close, as they say, or had been around each other, hung out with each other as much as, Freddie Mercury said, if that is the case, I mean, it could have been that he was hiding the fact that he used drugs around MJ, but I doubt it. I just think MJ may have possibly had his own standards of no, you're not going to do this in my house. You know what I mean? If you do it, I can't control what you do, but maybe just not in my house, sort of deal. But I don't think that really necessarily caused a rift. I think they did have different methods in terms of how they worked, to kind of move through that creative process, but I don't think it necessarily caused a rift. I did see an interview with Freddie Mercury, and he was saying how, he didn't have any, MJ actually reached out to him to, a few times to try to finish some of the music. He said that he had his different things going on with Queen. I'm a hugely successful group, touring, different things like that. He probably had other projects, and it was really like a time issue, timing. But if they had actually completed the songs that, MJ was pushing for them to complete, right, which was, I got to refer to my notes, you guys, which was the There Must Be More to Life Than This, the big one, State of Shock and Victory. If they had actually kind of pulled it together in a timely manner, it said that Freddie Mercury would have been on MJ's Thriller album. But, like I say, retrospect, already hugely successful. Of course, it would have been great to have been on the, number one selling album and on the globe, breaking records. But Freddie Mercury still, it wasn't, I would say, even though he had a short career span because he had a short lifespan, I would not say that, him not being on it, necessarily broke him in any sort of way, as, being the talented artist that he was or anything like that, or being, his level of success. But I think, obviously it would have helped. It would have been, anyone to have been on that Thriller album, number one selling, topping the charts, breaking records, like, come on. But, it went how it went. However, now, but yeah, to back up again. So Freddie Mercury said that MJ had reached out to him, wanting him to finish up the songs. He was very busy. Eventually he asked if Mick Jagger could actually do the hit what would have been his vocals. If you guys, I hope I'm really pointing to Freddie Mercury because my back is turned, but they're behind me. But anyway, what would have been Freddie Mercury's vocals, but it became Mick Jagger's. I heard the State of Shock song, which was actually used on the Jackson 5 album, actually sounded really good. So then again, there's always the thought that, things go exactly the way they're supposed to go, as they need to go. I don't know. I mean, Thriller, I'm trying to picture there being, different songs other than the ones that were selected, other than the individuals that were already, on there. I mean, it was an amazing album. So I don't know, but I didn't really get any, not that I was looking for it, but I didn't really see anything that was like any dirt to dig up between it, other than they had an amazing friendship. And Freddie Mercury said that he had no problem with Mick Jagger doing his vocals, on that. He said that, as long, what mattered most to him was his friendship with Michael, and that as long as they remained friends, then they could always make more music together and, eventually finish songs. So I just thought that that was really, good to hear. I mean, even though we know how things wound up going, in terms of just, life cut short and whatnot. But overall, like, what I was able to kind of dig into research was that they were good friends and that there were no negative sentiments. They had different ways that they, different creative processes, if you will, right? To put it lightly, they had different creative processes, but nothing where, like, I can't stand him, I'll never, like, I don't know. And then the part about them saying, or at least, like I say, from what I saw, the hearsay that Freddie Mercury told his manager, get me out of here. Like, they were friends that, were in agreement to, like, let's work on some music together. Oh yeah, okay, well, come over to my house. I have a recording studio. Let's work on some stuff. So I don't think it would, even though, like, let's say with the completion of the songs and with actual finished products, then maybe it would have gone further, like real, like, your manager, business, contracts and stuff like that or whatever. But to me, it was more like friendly, two talented people that were in the same field. That's like, okay, let's get together. There's no reason for us not to make music together. Let's work on some stuff. And just had very different, even though they got along really well in terms of like hanging out. And there's even footage of Freddie Mercury and the rest of the band, I guess, getting ready to go on stage, the rest of Queen getting ready to go on stage. And they're like going through the halls of, whatever auditorium or wherever they're at. And they have the entourage with them. And you can see MJ, he's walking with them, walking along with them. So I think that even though they got along really well, probably as like friends, mutual admiration, respect, both hugely talented. Sometimes people do have different creative processes, different ways that they do things. But truth be told, like, I think aside from like supposedly like the llama and the drugs, which it sounds so funny to even say the two things in the same sentence. But aside from the llama and the drugs, I think that they probably still would have, maybe completed all the songs, but they just both were very busy, very different, highly demanding schedules. And there's no, I mean, what was, I don't know. Some of you guys could put it in the chat. I don't know what the Jay-Z album was. It Blueprint or Black Print, whatever. I'm sorry, no disrespect to Jay-Z. But he was able to like finish his album and what did they say, in like a week or in one day or something that was like ridiculous, but that is not the norm. Usually the creative process, there's no telling. There's some, you might be able to finish, get something done, get a project done, no time at all. Or it might be something like one, maybe they knocked everything else out, but it's one song that might take a lengthy amount of time to complete. There's no like set. You can set a schedule for a creative process, but I'm guessing with them both being like, they weren't icons for no reason. They probably, I'm sure both had a certain standard of like quality, and it's no telling, but they both were very busy. So just to be able to kind of like sit back and, it's okay if it takes a week, it's okay if it takes a month, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like maybe not. So personally, after my little digging, I think it had more to do with time than anything. I don't think MJ was down. We do know later MJ did develop a prescription drug addiction, which was just horrible because it was just by chance, after the Pepsi commercial fire and that, needing a lot of pain relief, from that, taking prescription drugs for that. A lot of those drugs, as we know, especially at the time that, he was prescribed the stuff, a lot of them still are extremely addictive. And that led all the way up to, his death, unfortunately. So, we have Freddie Mercury, unfortunately, passed at age 45. We have Michael Jackson passed at 50, right? Both shortened lifespan. So, unfortunate, and it would have been nice, I think. Hey there, hey Marquise, what's up? Okay. Yeah, now when you say, it was Blueprint. Okay, thanks for, I didn't even see these. I didn't even see your messages. I'm sorry, I was probably looking off. But yeah, okay, so we got Blueprint was right, and then it was probably a plan from the powers that be. You know me. I don't knock a conspiracy. Especially since I've learned, which I think is just crazy, but I get it. But I think it's, I didn't know until really kind of having this channel and learning a little bit more. I did not know that a lot of these record labels, that when they sign an artist, they actually, and it's part of with all the other paperwork, but they literally do put life insurance policies out on their artists. And when their artists pass, I'm just saying. So, a lot that I've learned, but yeah, I wouldn't knock any, where did it go? No, you didn't, Marquise. No, you didn't. I actually don't digress because I've for this part, well, sometimes I do. But for this, I pretty much have covered what I have wanted to cover. I covered the meat of, what happened, what happened, Michael Jackson, Freddie Mercury, unreleased music. I mean, but they're, like I say, so those were the songs. And the only one that was complete, they say that they actually did write together, was the Victory one, which was used as a title for the Jackson album. But yes, it's, so that's what I got for you guys. So if you know a little bit more, I'm like, okay, let me find out, was it something that I missed? But from what I see, there's no real, it was no big, huge rift. It was no epic fight or anything like that, from what I see. I mean, I don't know. But there was no epic fight or anything like that took place between MJ and Freddie Mercury. I just think that they do things a little differently. I do not think MJ, and this is my own personal opinion, I do not think MJ was naive to Freddie Mercury's drug use. Like when he was hanging out with him before, I'm sure he probably was privy to, something. But I don't think that MJ used drugs, and I think that he may have had a certain standard of like, you cannot do that stuff in my house. Type of deal, which, maybe that was, the doing of the those things. Maybe that was how Freddie Mercury, maybe that was part of his creative process, or how he stayed up. I have no idea to get stuff done. I have no clue. But I know MJ was not down with it. And ironically, how things later kind of took place. I don't want this to be so super short. So if you guys, let me see. Let me go back to the chats. Oh, yep. So I think I already said hola to Tara. And what's up to Cedric and Marquise? Always a pleasure. So I guess this one here will be rather short and sweet. It's a little bit shorter and sweeter than I thought. But, one last thing. Okay. One more thing. So what I thought was interesting, and I'm sure you guys may have already, for those of you guys that are Freddie Mercury fans, or Queen fans, and, I've seen a lot of the footage, or MJ fans, I don't know, whatever. And both, you don't have to pick one or the other. But so I saw an interview with Freddie Mercury, and I guess it was around that same time, 1983. It was definitely after the Thriller album, and I think before the actual Thriller video. So I guess about 83. But Freddie Mercury was being asked about, the unreleased music and what happened with that. And he was saying, with that, just very busy. Those, words actually did come out of his mouth, that he was just extremely busy. I'm going to check the chat in just a second. You guys know I'm blind. I got to get this close to see. But he was also saying that, as long as they remain friends or whatever, they could always finish music down the line. But he was like, I was this close to being on Thriller. Like, technically, like, wow, could have, possibly have been on that. But he was also observing that MJ had become more reclusive. And I'm guessing that was post Thriller, you know, maybe before the video, but just still like that MJ, well, according to Freddie Mercury, MJ preferred to be at home most of the time. And Freddie Mercury was just saying like, you know, it couldn't be me. He said he'd be bored to death, and he didn't even like staying in one room for too long. He said he had to be out, and, you know, it's just a process, just how, you know, certain people, you know, wire different ways or whatever. But he did take into consideration that MJ has been in the business for a very long time. He said that MJ, you know, yeah, I guess it was 83, because he was saying that, you know, he's 37, MJ's 25, yet MJ has been in the business longer and been performing much longer than what he has. So, you know, at some point, I'm sure, you know, touring all the time, performing all the time, sometimes a nice contrast to that is to be able to be at home. And he was just saying, you know, MJ majorly rich, just about anything he wants was at his disposal. He could get a lot of things at home. He didn't have to go out for different things. So, but he was observing how isolated or isolating that had to be for MJ to be at home a lot. But we do know that MJ kind of, you know, reached beyond that normal. If it is a certain measure of fame, you know, MJ skyrocketed beyond that. You know, he, as I said in earlier videos, MJ was at that like shut it down. Okay, notice my accent, shut it down stage where, you know, he couldn't just slip on a hat, where I'm sure Freddie Mercury could, you know, maybe if he shaved his beard, put on a baseball cap, whatever, he could still go to the mall, or, you know, not that people wouldn't eventually maybe recognize him, but, you know, like MJ had reached a certain, you know, status there where it was just like, okay, well, man. So I could see him preferring to just, you know, be at home. So, but I just thought it was really interesting, because we do talk a lot about how isolated things had to have been for MJ, and that there were very few celebrities that could really identify with the level of celebrity dumb, I'm making up words, celebrity dumb that MJ was at. You know, very few could actually relate to that amount of coverage. So, you know, but I just thought it was really interesting, especially since that was coming from another legend, you know, very iconic. But he even at that early on was saying how isolating that may have been. And as we know, MJ did try to create a, you know, a world of his own, because he had kind of reached step beyond into that shut it down stage. So he did try to create, you know, the amusement parks, you know, a lot of things that he enjoyed that he should have technically been able to enjoy with other people and be around other people to enjoy. He no longer had that privilege to be able to do that, and did have to, you know, have a lot of things. A lot of celebs do have their own movie theater and this and that, but like he really had to rely on certain things just to, you know, even later we know he did take his kids to the zoo, but he literally would have to go after hours, have them to shut down the zoo just for him to walk around. You know what I mean? Like, how isolating is that? You know, you're a celebrity on one hand, you can have anything you want, but you just cannot. The one thing you probably want at times is to just be able to kind of be with everybody else, you know, because, you know, but he didn't really have that. So I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to just bring that up. And I'm not going to keep you guys. For those of you guys that have been hanging in there, God bless you. Much love to you. Like I say, if you guys are not subscribed, please do subscribe. You can also hit the bell so that you get new, you know, you're privy to any new content that comes down the pipeline, as well as do hit the like button. Take a moment, hit the like, you guys. And yeah, if you guys know any tidbits about MJ or Freddie Mercury about that, why they had music, unreleased music that they never quite completed, other than being their work ethic and time. Please do leave a comment or what down below. And I enjoyed you guys. Please do support me on other platforms. You can check me out on www.lilahmichelle.com. On there, I do have merchandise, and I also have icons to other platforms that you guys can view me on. I'm also on TikTok. I'm on the Tick to the Talk. Check it out while it's still available in the majority of the states here in the United States. Please do check me out on TikTok as well as Instagram. On Instagram, it is under I am Lilah Michelle. You guys can check me out there, and you've already found me on YouTube, and that is what's up. And normally I do my little turnaround, and I do not have that up, so I'm not going to worry about it. I don't think I have to do the Mr. Rogers today. So I will see you guys later. I enjoyed you guys, and I will see you guys soon. Bye. See you guys. I had fun. And shouts out to Marquise, to everybody who was on here. Marquise, to Cedric, and to Tara. Thanks for making my live. See you guys later.